What's up, guys? Thank you for tuning into another episode of Streetcar Shenanigans YouTube channel. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe down below so you can stay in tune with all the cool shit that we're working on lately. And you will see the big news that we're going to be announcing within the next couple weeks here. But today's project, or this week's project, has been past tense because we're kind of wrapping up on it. Didn't bring you a whole lot of footage on it, but Gary67 is back. I'm gonna put a link above my head to bring you back to the last project that we did on this last year, which actually kind of sprung the idea of starting a shop up because we really kind of took this car from another shop that really butchered the shit out of it, and we're slowly bringing it back to an acceptable quality. What we've done so far, just to kind of give you guys a quick update on what we're working on, it leaked everywhere. So everything was leaking. So all the oil pan bolts were loose, the valve covers were leaking. The intake manifold, when we put it down, I'll show you, but the intake manifold was also leaking, so everything was just covered in oil. The rear end was leaking, so we took it out, we resealed it all. It's been drying for the last couple days, so I know now it's nice and sealed up. And then they didn't have a fill plug in the back like this is, but there is a hole in this housing factory that is just like a hole, and they put a
nice pipe plug.
Yeah, they just put a big pipe plug in it, which the threads are all smashed up on now because it was just like crammed in there and it was leaking constantly. So we went and welded a All-Star Performance fill plug on there. So, and that's about the height that it should be anyway, so we're good with just leaving it like that. Otherwise, that pretty much wraps up what we were doing underneath it for now. There is still a couple more issues to handle, like the mounting and the components used in this fuel setup that somebody did. Needs to be changed eventually. Moving up front, this steering, this is from Total Control Products. Not that I'm trying to bash them, but shouldn't do that, I don't think. I mean, I'm not a professional by any means, but
it doesn't look right to me.
Definitely shouldn't do that. So we're I just called them today. We've been in contact trying to figure out what might be causing something like that. But I mean,
you can move almost this much without the other wheel.
Yeah, the other one's not even turning. We're getting an 1/8 inch of play.
Yeah.
Now the guy on the phone told me, he was very nice, he was extremely helpful, helping me. I have to go through all these guides and instruction manuals and check out where some of the adjustment might be able to be made. But I really took that rack apart as much as I can without pulling it out of the car. I found where the play is. I don't think it's going to be something that's done an adjustment. He also mentioned, well, you know, test that while it's running, because when it's running it has pressure on it and it probably won't do that anymore. And I also call bullshit. I don't think that's going to be the case on that either. But that's going to be a separate project, because now we are, you know, we're kind of nut and bolting the whole thing, making sure everything's tight, trying to get it to stop leaking. Dan, you can put it down. We'll show you guys what we did on the intake manifold. I mean, there's no doubt that this car is beautiful. It is probably the most head-turning vehicle we've had. I took this to BP to get gas like the end of the season last year, and the guy who runs the BP comes like running outside and he's like, "Can I please take a picture of your car?" I'm like, "It's not mine, but of course, please. Do you want me to stand in there with you?" He didn't think that was as funny as I did. Anyway, so what do we start working on the top? This has an MSD Atomic. What people have been asking us what we think about this EFI system. You can't change the base map that's in it. You kind of just fool the computer, the little handheld that it comes with, to maybe adjust some of the parameters. I would like to really play with the Holley version of the same kind of thing, because I think that has a lot more flexibility to it. But
the Terminator, the new one that just came out with?
No, the Terminator's like the Holley HP. That's like a standalone EFI system, but they have a Holley, but it's like a throttle body injection like this. It actually looks more like a carburetor than it looks like a Dominator carburetor. It's huge, but very similar concept to this. I can't think of what the name of it is right now. Sniper, Holley Sniper. All right, so Gary, at the end of last season, he ran into a couple problems. It has the oil filter relocated up here, and these lines that they had were like just Summit lines, and for some reason they failed like twice. It would just leak through the braid on the hose, like 4 inches away from the fitting. So I had to replace it once last year, and then I just used, I just cut it short and then made it work. Now this year we changed it all over to Phoenix stuff and used a higher grade hose. So hopefully it doesn't run into any issues on that again.
Sadly, we had to relocate it back to that same spot as we tried to put in the fender well, which where everything should have went to make it
Yeah.
a nice clean engine bay, but obviously we didn't do it the first time, so.
Yeah. Ideally, over the course of the next 18 months, we'll be moving. This is a power brake.
Conversion.
Yeah, so it doesn't have a vacuum booster. It's got this power brake set up. We want to put this on the other side of the fender well.
Along with all that.
We want to put this on the other side of the fender well, but this time would have been an opportune time to do it, but it's not going to fit where we want it, so we probably got to look into using a different style oil filter relocation kit.
Yeah, we tried to mock it up through, and we're gonna do a pass through, and got it all. We had it down on paper, and once we tried to go at it, it was that oil filter relocation is just bulky as hell, and it wasn't having it.
Yeah. Wasn't lining up very well, so we trashed that idea, unfortunately. But all this stuff we like to put on the other side. So then this thing was leaking like oil like crazy around the base of the distributor. But you can see the gap that's in here. Right there. There's just an O-ring on the inside. And it's not even an O-ring. It's actually just like a tapered seat that the distributor needs to like pull down into. We put obviously some grease on there. But after reading why that would leak, because I didn't build the engine obviously, it's because on these FE motors, everything is so intertwined on the top end. I don't have any video footage, I don't think, of having this apart. I might. If I do, I'm going to put it in here to show you. But the push rods go through the intake manifold, so you have to take the rocker arms off in order to get the intake manifold off. And when you're tightening it back together and you're putting it together, you have to put the intake manifold on gently, and then you have to put the distributor in so you can center the intake around the distributor. Now, as much as we try to focus on making sure the ports are square and everything lines up that way, this has small intake ports compared to the heads. The heads have been ported by somebody, like they're ported by hand, and the intake is totally factory. So if we had the time and resources, we would probably port the intake to match perfectly. But as of right now, that's not happening. So we got lucky. We did not run into any like port overlap that's going to hurt performance really. But we did center it around the distributor. It was not before. It was smashed up to one side, so it was spewing oil out of the back of the distributor between the intake manifold and the distributor. That was a long orientation, but that was the main source of the oil leak in the front. Then it had an antifreeze leak that wasn't terrible. Both of these hose clamps were loose, so we put a new piece of 5/8 heater hose there, and these were painted black, which looked really stupid. So we just kind of scraped all the paint off of those and put those back on nice and tight.
Make sure they were tight. They were loose.
They were certainly loose.
Yeah, they were. That was probably the main cause of the leak.
Not because they were painted black. A couple other things we're still working on. The heater core was leaking. So this has like this billet adapter plate, which is kind of trick. It's kind of nice looking. However, it just has, like this is painted black once again. It's just like a brass fitting. And then it's got a barb on the inside. And then it's got a hose clamp. And then it's got a 4-inch piece of heater hose to the heater core. And then it's got a hose clamp. So there's 4 hose clamps in between here and the heater core itself. All 4 of them were loose. It was dripping into the car. I did not know that they were loose until I pulled the heater core out of from underneath the dash because I thought the heater core was leaking. So I pulled the heater box out, and in the process of the heater box, I figured out how that was orientated because I did not know how they had that set up. That was my assumption, but anyway, long story short, that ended up being the fix. And put it all back together, tighten the hose clamps, should be good. We have ordered some black barb fittings to run some heater line. And we got to go into this port here and this port here. So they'll end up meeting somewhere in this area and probably come along down and then in.
Then it'll heat again.
So we have 2 more issues. And these are going to probably be addressed in the future, although we're trying to address them now. First one is this power brake booster should maintain pressure pretty well. It shouldn't be constantly running or anything like that. And for some reason, it's constantly running, I would say 80% of the time. And it gets super hot and it's dangerous because the power brakes go in and out. So it feels like it's introducing air into the system, and we don't really have the resources to redo all the braking system that he's already paid $1 million for. So, you know, this is like the feed, which is just like a little rubber hose. That's kind of BS. And that's where it seems to be getting introduced air somewhere. So there's a rubber hose here. There's a rubber hose that goes underneath the master. So that we kind of went through. I just tightened all the brake lines on the whole entire car. A lot of them were looser than they should have been. So hopefully that is a simple fix. Then issue number 2 is when we set the distributor in to get this thing running again, we had a really strange, it was almost like detonating. And the timing, let's show you what the MSD Atomic looks like. Let me just show you how non-complex this is. You guys saw the Holley HP and the Lightning video. It's pretty complex. So we're gonna just turn the key on. This is how you tune the Atomic EFI. There's no plug in here to change anything else. You can put a little SD card, but you can't really change the base. So you go to advanced setup. So when you're timing this, you go to ignition timing, and then you lock the timing right here. And it locks at 15 degrees before top dead center. So you can set it at 15 degrees. You can check with the timing light. So then this can control all the timing from then on out, as long as you sync this 15 to the 15 on the balancer. Which brings us to our next issue. Now, when I worked on this car last year, we were playing with the Atomic. We're like, hey, let's tune it in a little bit. So me and Gary, the owner, were just like driving up and down, back and forth, and I kept adding timing, and the thing kept getting faster and faster. Till eventually where it said overall timing advance is like at 38 degrees. I'm like, I don't want to keep cranking it up because that just sounds like too much. But it would kind of run on when you turned it off, and it did some other goofy things that I don't think something like this should have done. But we got it to where it was okay. It wanted like 24 degrees of idle at timing, and it was at like 38 total advance, which seems like really high, but it ran great, didn't detonate, and it was making some serious power. I didn't go over 38 just because it just sounded like a high number. So now when I took this all apart to reset the distributor in and wanted to put at 15 degrees timing, it was like detonating and doing weird stuff again.
We had the timing light on it to what we thought was 15 degrees, according to the balancer.
Yeah, so the timing pointer, so you guys saw how we locked the timing on the MSD. So it should have been 15 on the balancer. When we got it to 15 on the balancer, it was not happy there.
It was, oh man.
It was running terrible. You could hear it. It was like pinging and doing weird stuff, and it sounded like it had super retarded timing. So I just kept turning the distributor by hand and kind of just threw the timing light off to the side, timed it by sound. And when it got pretty happy, I was like, all right, let's just lock it down there. It was about 25 degrees. Lock it down, she was mint. Revved really nice, it was revving great. I decided that we should probably check the balancer's accuracy to the timing pointer, because maybe that's where our issue's coming in. Sure enough, it's like 9 degrees off. Probably 10, because whoever put the sticker on it probably used the 0 mark as the 10 mark, because those are usually the two most common marks on the balancer, 0 and 10. So that is lovely. So now it's gonna be an animal, because now it has like 10 degrees more timing, and we have to retune it. So once it started running, the MSD Atomic is smart enough to get it to idle, and it's set to idle at like 780 or 800, so it's got a really nice sound to it. And I was watching it pull timing like crazy, trying to get it to come back down to idle. So basically, after we do the math on this, we really had it idling at like 13 degrees of timing. Like right now it's idling at 13 degrees of timing. It probably wants even more, but now that we know the balancer's off, we're gonna be comfortable adding more. And we only had it at 28 degrees overall advance. So realistically, we're gonna pick up some pretty good horsepower now and start really tuning in on this thing now that we're confident on how all the orientation is. But it just goes to show that when you start mismatching and putting shit together, even if it's a well-renowned shop, we can show you where like some of the RTV, when the intake manifold was poorly located. I mean, there's just, you never know. You never know.
Yeah, oh yeah, a lot of stuff going on.
And we're not perfect. Let's make a disclaimer there. We're certainly not perfect.
As you saw in the VMP video.
Yes.
But we did fix our issue.
You know, we make mistakes, and we do, you know, I'm not going to say that we do shit half-assed, because we certainly don't. But if we don't know how to do it, we are going to source who does know how to do it and make sure that it gets done right, because nobody should be spending money 2, 3, 4, 5 times.
Yeah.
Like Gary have had to do.
Especially with a car like this.
Yeah, a car of this caliber should be one and done, and tune it in and freaking enjoy it. Take it to Cars and Coffee every weekend. But
and then the other thing, little thing, we had the oil issue. Obviously, it was talking about the valve covers leaking. One of these breathers, that side, was sat in the back. We have no idea why they did this. Because I think this looks so much better with them even like this. The bracing was different. We kind of...
Yeah, we had to move this over. It's not so super symmetrical, but it's close enough now.
It's close. It's very close. But we were able to, so we swapped the breather and the baffles inside, so now we're going to hopefully limit the amount of oil that gets pushed out of the breather, because when obviously hitting the gas or anything, there's an immense amount of oil that went to the back of the heads. And the heads, another thing, when we took the intake off, I don't even know, the RTV was just all over the place, and these heads, the head studs go through the oil return on the head, so there's not very much room to start with. And then to add to that, they put like a little valley of RTV in it, which
Could have potentially restricted the flow.
hindered that flow even more than it already was. So hopefully this will help with that too.
One of the inherent issues with the FE big block, and that's why they went to like a side oiler modification to like the 428 later on, I think it was the 428, is that they pump a shit ton of oil into the top of the motor. So they fill the valve covers, they fill the valley. Having it all apart and seeing like where the oil was puddling, it's very apparent that they're not very good at oil draining back into the system. And so much so that you put restrictors in it once you do build a motor. We were told that this motor has restrictors in it, but we did not tear it down far enough to see. So we think that part of the problem of why it had so much oil on the back corner of this engine was the breather being back there. And like Dan said, it wasn't flowing back. So the slosh factor of it pushing oil out of that back corner was really bad. So that's why we moved this breather back up here.
Yeah, because in particular, obviously I don't know if it's got a big part where how dirty this engine was when we first got it, but we but we scrubbed for hours.
It was filthy.
But this back corner was very bad.
Yeah, and underneath, and everything pretty much from like this point, all around the front, and then all around the back was all covered in oil from the valve covers down. And the majority of the front of it, probably all of the front of it, was from the distributor not being centered in the intake manifold, so that's fixed. And then everything else is probably from the valve covers. That side more so be in the breather. And now we're hoping, fingers crossed, that should be all handled. But I have low hopes because the FE community says that if your FE doesn't leak oil, there's probably none in it. So we're just going to do our best to minimize how much it leaks. But we're hoping it's going to be pretty good. Anyway, this was just to kind of give you an update of this car. You guys saw in the background of the Lightning video. We just want to kind of show you what we're doing. The next thing we really want to bring to you guys on this car is just like a review. Not necessarily a wrap up because it's a long-term project. Yeah. But I would like to get Gary on the channel. He's a funny guy. He's a great guy. He's been a supporter of Streetcar Shenanigans from the very beginning, even before we were Streetcar Shenanigans. Yeah. And kind of explain why he built the car like this and what's it for, and you know, kind of go over what it is, because it's a really badass car. As much as that we're knocking on, you know, the craftsmanship prior to us getting to it.
Yeah, it's a great car, like you were saying, but yeah, the craftsmanship is not there. But the car itself overall is still phenomenal looking and all that.
And she's on her way back up.
Yeah.
So this car's awesome. We're gonna bring you guys a driving, running in the next video, and then subscribe because the next car that we're working on is a Fobra from Wisconsin. Now this is actually pretty fun because this car found us via YouTube. Him and his son found us on YouTube and decided to take their car. They're not that far away, they're just in Milwaukee, but they brought it down here to us. They towed it down last weekend, and it broke a ring land off. They don't really know the history on the car too much, so we're gonna get elbow deep in this thing, pull the engine out of it. We're gonna have Mark and Wea build us a wicked 2-valve short block. Probably just gonna put cams on it. Probably gonna stick with the stock heads, hopefully, just to kind of stick within the budget. But it is a Fobra. Dan can tell us what it's missing, but it has just about everything. But he's got the front bumper, the spoiler, obviously the wheels that he wants to change. It has a Torque Tech blower kit, so it even has a Cobra blower, but it is a 2-valve. And it's actually a really clean car. It's a nice car.
Yeah. Little things here and there, but they're not 100% needed.
It's not a full-blown Fobra yet.
Yeah.
But it's getting close.
Get there.
So anyway, that's what's going to be coming up in the next video. We're going to be pulling out the engine out of that, so we'll be recording that tonight and tomorrow. So make sure you smash that subscribe button down below. Leave a comment. Let us know what you think about the 67. Is it beautiful or what? It's a beautiful car. And we'll see you guys in the next episode of Streetcar Shenanigans on our YouTube channel. Dan, you want to wrap it up?
I got nothing.
Okay, good enough.